Ladies and gents, welcome to The Light Leadership Diaries, episode number 10, the final of season 1. What a journey it's been, Taban. Huh?
Quite a journey. Quite an interesting journey, I must say.
We've had amazing guests,
Yep.
and today is no different.
Correct.
So, to the audience that is out there, we just want to say, really, today you're going to be in for a special treat with the guests that we have. So make sure that you get a pen, a paper, your iPad, your iPhone, whatever instrument you want to use to record this. Take in all the content because you're going to learn exceptionally about leadership. You're going to learn about, bouncing back from challenges. You're going to learn a little bit about yourself and how to overcome, a lot of things that you could potentially be dealing with in the corporate space or even in your personal life. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the next 45 minutes to an hour. So Tabani, as we're accustomed to doing.
Yeah. Like I always say, and everyone knows, I always say that, we've got amazing guests, and we do, and we've proven it time and time and again, just by the jewels that have been shared by all the guests that we've had so far. And like you said, today is no different. We have people that we truly admire, who've done phenomenal things in the corporate space, and I'm really excited for the audience to take in some learnings and really get to see what we see and how we learn on it on a day-to-day basis through observing these individuals, but also through conversations with them. I'm really excited to be able to actually get the opportunity for them to impart that knowledge to our audience.
So, as in true fashion, what we normally do is we will ask our guests to introduce themselves. And because we have a lady on the panel, I want to ask Lungile to introduce herself to you, tell her who she is, and then from there, I'll then introduce her to you as the audience.
Cool. Name Lungile Mbata, as you said, Lungile. A KZN girl who's lived in Joburg for almost half her life, pretty much. Married to an awesome Mbata guy, who's to make me change my surname. And overall, just lover of things light and fun in life.
Just
No surprises.
yeah.
Look, we're going to get to you in a second. I'd like, whilst we're still, digesting what Lungi how she introduced herself.
Yep.
Because like most guests, they always, and this talks about personal branding, they always understate themselves significantly. So I'm going to tell you who Lungile is.
Can we do it differently?
Yes, we can.
Can we ask Lunga to also introduce himself before they see how we introduce them?
That's a good idea.
Because he might, just based on your introduction, now change things.
That's a very good idea.
Okay. Name is Lunga Moi. Born and bred in Cape Town. Grew up in the dusty streets of Khayelitsha. So I'm married, 2 kids. Married with Mam Joacha, Bulelani Mahabeni. I love dearly. And we've been together for the past 27 years. Now live in Johannesburg. I think I came here in Joburg in 2004. And I'm loving it. That's me. Yeah.
No different, Alan.
No different.
No different.
Indeed. So Mike, I'll take it back to you
All right.
to introduce Lungi.
Okay, so Lungile, affectionately known by people that know as Lungi.
Yes.
Lungi Mbata. As you mentioned, she's from KZN. Lungi came to WITS. She studied at WITS where she did a BCom majoring in economics and finance. After she did that, she did a post diploma in management. And then, she started her career. She started a career at P&G. And at P&G, I'm going to have to read because Lungi has done a lot of things in her career. She started a career as a market strategy and planning manager within the beauty care space. She then moved from that space into customer as a key account manager. From there, then she decided, let me leave the world of beauty. And she went into the telecommunication space, where she went to Virgin Mobile. At Virgin Mobile, she was the channel marketing manager, which is a role that she held. From there, we call people like her return soldiers. because she then went back to the company that employed her for the first time. So she went back to P&G. And this time when she went back to P&G, she went back as a commercial operations team leader, specifically within the shave care, skin care, and personal care division. From there, she got great success and then moved on to market strategy and planning manager for Gillette. Now, Gillette, for people that know, is one of the most profitable brands for P&G Group. A brand that they held very, very closely and very dearly. And she did some amazing work on this brand or with this brand, which then led her to her next role, which was area sales manager for distributors. After this, that's when she felt that she needs to go to the lighter side of life, and she joined beverages. And she joined beverages working for the Coca-Cola, where she was the BU, which is the business unit head of customer and channel strategy for Southeast Africa. So she looked after a number of countries within her portfolio. And then she was then promoted to head of customer for South African franchise. And, Thabani and I were talking earlier on when I said, the magnitude of this role, people don't understand. Firstly, Coca-Cola is a massive brand, as you know. Second is Coca-Cola in the world, or should I rather say Coca-Cola in South Africa is in the top 10 markets globally. So for her to head up customer for, this business unit is a big deal. And that's just a little bit about her background from a career perspective. Whilst doing, this beautiful journey in her career, she then also did her MBA. Most people that do the MBA, I can tell you, they will tell you that they did the MBA, but not Lungi. Lungi did not tell us she did the MBA, but she did whilst working, which on its own is a very difficult feat in order to do. What people have said about Lungi, because we did a little bit of research to find out, because we know you, if we want your bio, we can go to LinkedIn. If it's updated, we can read all about all the things that you've done. However, the people that have interacted with you and that know you on a personal level have said many things about you. And some of the things that they said is, Lungi, she is a very warm person. She is integrity and values are at the top of, who she is as a human being. She loves her children. She's a loving, warm person in terms of, how she is, how she interacts with people. She puts people at the heart of her decision making. She leads with her heart as well as with her mind, which speaks volumes in terms of the kind of leaders that we need today, who are going to help take not just South Africa, but Africa, into the place that it needs to get to. Some of the people that she's led have said that, one thing about her is when, they make mistakes, she will still correct them, but she'll never correct them in front of, their peers. But at some point they think that the correction is not going to come, but it does. But it happens behind closed doors. So she'll never embarrass, her team members or team. Lungi is very, very focused, and she's all about, ensuring, she's all about excellence. And we find that a lot, Thabani, with leaders, is that excellence is paramount, because excellence is what gets them to where they are. She has a very strong passion for people development. The development of people, especially young people, is really at the heart and at her core. A pleasure to work with, and people have said, that she's led, that they would love to work with her, and she's helped them get to the levels that they've actually achieved. And ladies and gentlemen, that is who Lungi really is, not who she said she is.
Yeah, indeed. Which shouldn't surprise you guys, just based on what we've seen in the past. And Lunga is no different. So there's Lungi and there's Lunga. So Lunga studied at the University of Western Cape, BCom in information systems. And at that time, I think information systems was just a word that was out there. I don't even know how he came across that. Maybe it's something we might unpack a little bit later. And then the first, I think I would say, massive role is when he joined Procter & Gamble, where he was I think he was the interactive marketing manager.
Yes.
And then after that, so one thing you'll notice when I mention the areas that Lunga has worked in, it's really massive companies, which are either ranked number 1 or number 2 in the spaces that they play in. So he left Procter & Gamble, which is in the top 2, I think, in the FMCG space, moved on to ABSA, where he was the online sales and marketing manager for products. And then after that, he moved on to, I think that was Microsoft,
Yeah.
where he was the online marketing manager. And then after that, moved on to Samsung Electronics, where he was the digital marketing head for the company. And then post that, he moved on to MTN, where he was the group digital marketing head. I'm hoping you're seeing a trend now. And then after that, he basically moved on to Unilever, where he was again the sub-Saharan digital lead for Unilever. And then after that, he moved on to Tiger Brands, where he was the director for digital, and then now where he is, or where he's been, has been at Telkom Business, where he was the executive for e-commerce and digital. And the latest one, I don't know if I can talk about this, but I can.
Yeah.
He's again another returnee soldier, where he's moving back to Unilever as the media director for Sub-Saharan Africa, which means he'll be sitting on the board for Unilever South Africa, which is a phenomenal result. And you can see what I mean when I say, because what I'm hoping that the audience sees is the trend of it's not lateral moves. Yeah, so it shows the success that are coming in, because each time he's moved is because of a bigger role, and really developing in that way. And then, but like Lungi, we ask people for feedback on Lunga, and some of the feedback that we've gotten is very humble, which you have seen in terms of how he's introduced himself, but very highly focused in terms of what he wants, and he really goes after what he wants. As a leader, highly motivated, self-starter, which explains why the IT area or the digital space
Back then.
from back then, open-minded, and then also a great listener. That's what we've been told, in terms of always encouraging other people to speak out and never afraid to basically follow when he's needed. Yeah. And that speaks a lot, I think, to his leadership capabilities, because sometimes we think that leadership is about you leading people, but also he's able to follow his team when he's needed to do. And then as a person, I just want to read the excerpt, that I got, because I thought it was really interesting. Lunga is always patient and willing to help and guide. Anytime you need him, he's there. He shows empathy, and his laughter and easygoing nature is infectious and good to be around. And did I mention, he's a happy and proud father and husband, which you saw when he introduced himself, because that was the main area that he focused on. So really strong. Like I said, these people that we look up to ourselves. So we're really excited to have a conversation with you guys. And I'd like to start with you, Lunga. We spoke about self-starter, etc. Why information systems at that time?
2004.
Yeah.
I think just
2001.
From studying, yeah.
And before Lunga actually, goes in that, we're living in a time now where we're talking about e-commerce.
Correct.
We're talking about a time where we're encouraging online buying.
Yeah.
And this was 19 years ago when you started this journey.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Because you saw something, that people didn't see.
Yeah.
You were in a space where people probably thought that you were an IT guy.
Yeah.
Meantime, that was very, very different to actually what you were doing.
100%. So I think for me, like I said in my intro, I mean, I grew up in Khayelitsha, lived in a shack with my mom and my cousins and her sisters, one room shack, right? So I think for me, one of the things that actually drove me is that because before I went to Cape Town, I was also in Transkei with my grandmother, where I was until about 9, and then I moved to Cape Town to my mom. I think for me, one of the biggest things that actually drove me was like, I want to make money when I grow up, so that I can be able to lift my family, move them from Khayelitsha and put them somewhere else. Leave them from staying in a shack and make sure that they've got a decent roof and all those kind of things. And more importantly, be able to help my mom, right? But when I studied, I did maths and science. And I think, like any other child back then, I think if being a developer was actually what was actually my dream, to actually become a programmer, a computer programmer, be a developer. My mom had other dreams. She wanted me to be a doctor, but I'm like, no, I want to play with computers. I want to be a programmer. But I did my matric. From matric, I then went to UWC. I did information systems and marketing, and I think the reason why I did information systems and marketing, that I wanted to bridge to bridge the world of business from a marketing point of view and IT, and that's why I actually did the course. Actually took the combination information systems specifically, as well as taking marketing as an additional course. So when I obviously got an opportunity to be part of the PNG graduates program, I think for me, I learned it in the digital world by chance, because it was very new at that point in time. But I remember doing an interview with my boss then, Anthony Nanga. It was like, we've been getting people to do this role for quite some time. No one has ever gotten it. And how I got to get the role, because I used to work during my 4 years of studying at UWC. I used to work at Hilton Winner. And one of the things I said in my interview is that to Tony, because he wanted someone that understands data, that understands interactive marketing, and got to know that sending an SMS at that point in time was like the thing. And that was my story. I sold in the interview that I collect my customer data, and when I'm going to come on Friday, after varsity, I will send them SMSs and say, I'm going to start at this time, and my customers will come and go buy to me because I'm actually there. Little did I know that was actually digital marketing.
So that's marketing, right?
Personalized marketing, right?
Man, you worked all the time, right?
Anthony saw something. He said, okay, cool. I'm going to give you this opportunity because you understand sending personalized communication to customers, personalized marketing. And I took the role. And gosh, I didn't know it was going to be very difficult, because at that point in time, internet penetration in South Africa was 4%. No marketer wanted to invest in digital marketing.
Right.
So I would go and beg for digital spend. And I'm getting the reach on TV, on print, on outdoor.
100%.
Why must I put my money in this thing where people are not even on digital? So it was a very hard sell at that point in time, right? But I think what drove me is that I'm a person who's very perseverant, and when I want something, I really go for it. I persevere, and I believe in gathering data so that you can actually show people that this thing really works.
Right.
And what I then had to do at that point in time was to say, okay, we've got all these big brands, but how do we pick the brands that we know they've got the higher LSM, and those people have got access to internet? And Pampas was one of those brands. Olay was one of those brands. And we started selling the story, putting up digital platforms, sending communications and SMSs, and we started building case studies. And people started releasing their budget. It was very hard, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to lie. I mean, e-commerce was very foreign then. People didn't understand e-commerce. If you talked about e-commerce, it's just like, yes, there is e-commerce, but it's something very foreign. But look at what happened this year, right?
Yeah.
So this year, COVID became our chief digital officer, because it actually helped each and every business to actually transform drastically into the digital world, and actually setting up online stores and allowing their customers to actually buy products online.
Yeah. And this year you had to, most people were asking you, can you squeeze me in, right?
This year,
now we don't have space for what all the time. Whereas people were begging and people were giving like 2 cents at the budget. This year everybody's like, oh my God, I need to go online. It's like, we've been saying.
So I mean, just some of those struggles, because here you are in this role, which, you know, somebody has seen talent in you. They put you in this role, but now you don't understand that you're going to have to now define this role, number one. Number two is you're going to still have to negotiate with your peers for the budget.
Yeah.
And most important, number three is, over and above negotiating, there's still a lot of hurdles and challenges that you're going to face internally. And you work for the same company. You know, how did you get through those times?
So I think for me, being a data-driven person, I mean, data doesn't lie, right? Because if you've got data and you've done something and then you can go and show a case study to that person, I think that's what really, really, really helped me. And then also being able to collaborate, right? And I think what most of us tend to do in corporate is that if you're in a specialized role or a support role, you tend to drive your own agenda. And I think what really helped me is that it's not to drive my own agenda, but to actually collaborate and actually understand what are the business problems that are actually pressing for my peers, and see how what I do can actually help them solve their problems. And when I've done so, show them the results that, look, this is how it actually helped you.
Wow.
And then you can then be able to take that and go to the next person that still wants to try this digital thing, but they don't trust it. But if you can say, look what I've done for Lungi, this is what I can do for your brand.
100%.
And in that way, you build trust and you unlock budget. And for me, that's what really helped. And then being able to build relationships with your peers and being there and being able to listen and understand because I mean, people are sitting in their roles, especially if you're speaking about someone who's in marketing, someone who's in sales. It's not about doing the fleshy things, right? Especially now. It's not really about doing fleshy things. These people have got targets, pressures. So when you come in as a digital person or a support person, you need to say, how I'm going to help you achieve your targets, right? Yeah.
Wow. And it's interesting that you mentioned just being in a space that no one really understood, and because Lungi had I think you had a similar challenge joining P&G in a role that no one even knew existed prior to getting into a P&G world or Procter & Gamble world, which was in key accounts, which no one knows. You can't study for it. Like, no one can tell you, you study this and then you will become a business development manager, in a sense. And then being female at that in a predominantly male-dominated world. I mean, how was that transition and maneuvering yourself in that space?
I mean, man, when I was in varsity, I did economics and business finance. I went for my interview at Deutsche, and when I went for my interview as a mentor, I wanted to do like banking finance, and stuff. And explaining to my parents, okay, I'm going to customer business, and then it was customer business development, right?
Yes.
Well, it's kind of difficult. Like, what are you going to do? Eventually, I think I learned to just say, hey guys, I sell diapers.
Yeah.
Shampoo. That's it. Let's leave it at that. I just said diapers and shampoo.
Which was also an issue in itself, right?
Right. And pads. Exactly. And then your first day, you get a nice car, etc. But then you go to like the deep depths of Johannesburg to sell and clean shelves, and your peers. Oh, you left varsity with wearing the suits, going to KPMG. They're doing the articles, and they bump into you in the street coming out of Pick n Pay looking ashy. Because you're packing them up, this kind of thing, right? And then you go to areas. I remember my one store visit with my manager. It was at Checkers in Randfontein. And not being racial, but there was this Afrikaans store manager, and he was so rude. It was the first day I broke down and cried in front of my manager, because the guy was rude, and you could see that he doesn't even see us as equal humans, kind of thing. It wasn't being rude out of the rude of someone is having a bad day. It was the rude of being, I'm talking to like an inferior human kind of thing. So first you're dealing with these men, and secondly you're dealing with the fact that you're gonna work in places where there are people who don't see you as equals.
100%.
It was character building, and I think it made me say to people who would join the role later that if you need to learn Afrikaans, man, so you can communicate and make your life easy in that space, right? If you need to learn Fanalo, learn Fanalo, be friends with your merchandisers because they'll get you out of trouble, kind of thing. Because you just had to build those, you just had to sharpen certain skills and also build those skills where you have someone who can smooth things off for you, but then also have the males as your allies. It also helped that I think through my varsity, when I started varsity, I started bits with the crew of my boys from back home, where the guys were closer to me. So I kind of was the girl who was always hanging out with boys. So then it kind of became easier to decipher, like, guys think in a certain way or do things in a certain way. Continue to build the same relationships as you would have, and help other females be able to navigate it, because it is different, right?
Correct.
Even when you get to team leader role, it's like, I think it was me, the only black woman, and
Yep.
then I had another woman or two. And it was tough, because sometimes you're trying to express yourself and people are saying you're being emotional, and you're like, I'm not being emotional, I'm saying what you're saying.
Right.
You know, but when you think you got, because you're gonna say it in a sturdier, lower voice, you are making more sense. No, man, come on. Let me express myself the way I want to
Yeah.
express myself. So you kind of learn how to make these guys your friends, but there's also others where you just become automatically friends,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it's all about human relationships, and those are the people who help you navigate the way around, the way up, the way to the sides. That's the only thing you can do. Otherwise, what do you do, right? And then when you get the chance, you bring in more women. That's one of the things I became an ad, because you sit there sometimes and you're like, I can't be the only woman. in this room. I can't.
Yeah.
For me, I still get upset. You listen to things like the first female fighter jet pilot. I'm like, 2020.
Yeah.
Come on, guys! You're gonna tell me that no one tried before, no one succeeded. This is a mess, and it then becomes an agenda where, say, if you're a female in the boardroom, regardless of race, but mainly black female in the boardroom, find a way to bring in other voices, because the only way things are going to change is because there are people who have the same message, who can endorse or talk it from experience. Because most of the time it's just, I assume, you'll remember some of the discussions will be like, I assume she doesn't want this role because she just had a baby, she doesn't want to travel. Gandhi, no. Certain people have different structures at home, you know, kind of thing. Offer the role to the person, and if the person says, no, I can't take it because I'm a single mother, it's a different discussion. But don't assume she just had a child. Some people have rich husbands, have rich families, they themselves inherited money, or whatever it is, or themselves have a very good support system where your mom lives with you. You can actually take the role, be able to travel, and everything works out. So it was one of those things of, when you're there, bring in more, because the agenda will change when you've brought in other people, but
Absolutely.
teach the others how to hang out with with the boys, because that's what the system is in most of the places.
But I'm intrigued by that, because where does it come from? You know, I mean, you speak to a lot of people, and it's for both of you in terms of this. It's not about me. It's for more for the collective, and
Correct.
you know, leaving the door open, or you know,
100%,
reaching that. Where does it come from? Because with some people you find it's something that's not innate, but it just happens. So for you, because it must have developed somehow to get to this point of, for me, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm standing for. Where does it come from? How does it start?
It's natural for me. It becomes, sorry, but I think it's natural. More than natural, it's a survival mechanic, I think, for some of us. Like I said, sometimes you say something in a boardroom or in a meeting, and people just don't get you. And all you need is another voice to say, yeah, the thing she's talking about happens.
Just
It's real.
affirmation.
It's not imagined. And then there's two voices to contribute towards the discussion. Otherwise, it was just an opinion that landed and fell and moved on. And for the conversation to actually happen, two voices need to say, oh, by the way, it actually happens, and thus we need to fix it. It's an existing issue, or it's something that needs to be resolved, whatever it is. That's what I'm saying. For me, it almost becomes a, yes, I want to do it, but also it's a survival thing in the bigger scheme of things. If we're gonna change the workplaces or our families or our communities to a certain way, we need to have the conversations that need to be had by having the representation from different perspectives, not just one.
And for you, no?
And I think for me specifically, yes, and I agree with Lungi, it becomes natural, right? But I think for me, growing up and being brought up by a single mom, who was my father and my mother at the same time, and not only for her children, but also for her siblings, for their kids. One thing that I learned growing up is that you need to look up to someone as an individual, and you need one person, just one person, to give you a chance, right? And for me, I got the chance when I went to PNG, right? So I went to PNG. Someone believed in me. I came from Khayelitsha High School, Ezinzi, and I went to UWC. But I never thought that I would be in a space whereby I could be working for a multinet. But someone believed that, let me pick this one up. So because someone picked me up, I've always lived believing that I should pick up more and more of Lunga. And that's what drives me. And if I'm in a space where I know that I should be grooming young talent, because they're waiting for someone to give him that opportunity, and they're waiting for someone to believe in them. And I always do that so that we can get more and more of these leaders coming into this boardroom and changing the world. And for me, yes, we've got imbalances in South Africa where there was white privileges and all that. But I think if you look at the generation of today, it's not even about lifting up a white child or a black child. It's about giving a person that is hungry enough for that opportunity and giving them that opportunity so that we can breed more and more leaders. Yeah.
What's in it for you, Taban?
Hey?
Your career and how you lead, emulates what they're talking about as well. What has been your why when it comes to talent?
For me, I believe, so for me, I've always wanted to be the beacon and the light, but I believe that a light, we need more lights to shine a beacon and give people hope and saying, well, if he can do it, then I can do it. Because he comes from here, guys. So if he can move from an environment like this and get to this level, then surely I can. And the brighter the light, the better. And what I realized earlier on was that sometimes, as much as I may believe, I don't believe in positions. Unfortunately, the rest of the world does. And so it became, I moved my mindset from saying it's about, just getting people in, etc. I realized that the more senior I got, the more my word held, substance or held weight. So it became important for me to also move up in organizations as a result, because it's not that I'm saying anything different. Yes, the way I say it has changed based on experiences, but people will listen to me more as I do that. But it's about being the light, and therefore I'm able to accelerate a lot more people. And the aim is not to get people to my level. I've always said this. It's for them to reach beyond where I can reach.
Surpass you.
Yeah, which is why the pace is so important for me, of people developing, and so that they still have the energy to move even further. So that's been the driver for me. And I think it's been, and I realized, I was chatting to my mother this morning, and I realized that I think part of the driver has been ingrained in a way without realizing it, in that my mother was a teacher. So in some way or some shape, that's what I've had to do. My father was the oldest son, so his siblings would look to him. He's the lead, he's driving, things. So, and I being the firstborn, naturally, everything I did, I was the first in the family to do. So that, I think that just became an internal thing. I just realized recently in terms of how to express it. But I think it developed that way, and then it's just been enhanced by the different roles that I've done. But the core piece has always been about African leaders. It's always been about Africa playing a bigger role in the world economy, versus the world economy happening to us. So if I can get more leaders to help Africa in Africa, so not just South Africa, but Africa, to play that role, that means we can actually play a significant role in driving the Africa agenda into the rest of the world.
Thank you so much for tuning into the season finale. If you enjoyed today's content or any other content that we've had, please make sure to subscribe at the bottom. Tabari, what was the video after the subscribe?
Hit the bell button so that you get notifications every single time we upload a new episode.
Once that episode is uploaded, if you enjoy the content, like it, comment on it, share it with the rest of your family and your friends, And then lastly,
And
Tabani,
don't forget to drop your comments in terms of the content that you've gotten today or any sort of topics that you want us to discuss in upcoming future series.
Usazwa Malit.
Let me take this